You know what fuels online business more than anything else? Yes, it is showing off and humble bragging. Yes, that's all the lesson for today. Bye-bye. No, don't go. How could you even think I would talk so little? If I had the opportunity, I would talk forever, as long as I didn't have to talk to people. I only enjoy talking at people. But anyway, that's another story for another time. Really, what fuels online business more than anything else is the ability to show off, the ability to humble brag, but also to not do it in a way that turns people away. Because most of these show-offs where you say things and you're expecting people to be impressed, honestly, we are not impressed. We see through it and we judge you and we think you are a douche potato. So don't do that. Yes, you need to show off. Yes, you need to establish credibility. Yes, you need people to see how great and awesome and absolutely amazing you are. But if you are doing it in a way that makes you look like you're the best thing since sliced bread and make everyone else look pathetic, you are doing it wrong, my friend. And we judge you. So today's session of 30 Days of Persuasion is all about how to show off without showing off. Translation, how to humble brag without looking like a douche potato. So if you see this and you hear this and you're excited to know about this, you're excited to tear up some panties by showing off all about how great you are, then let me know in the comments, leave a thumbs up or a heart or something and tell me that you're excited, even if you're not excited about the panties part. Let me know so that I can continue on spilling my pearls of wisdom all about douche potatoes and panties. So yes, please do that, and also share this broadcast with someone, especially if you want to be passive aggressive about it. Share this broadcast with someone who sucks at showing off, in the sense that every time they do, people are like, oh my God, yeah. So yeah, all of those puke in your mouth show off statuses that you see on Facebook. If you want to be passive aggressive about it, then share that with those creeps so that they actually know how to show off without really showing off. Yeah, do that. And I will do the same. No, I'm not going to share it with any creep, but I'm going to share it on my timeline, and you should too. Okay, let's do that. Everything seems to be okay. Yes, it does. Okay, excellent. Let's now get into the first technique that you can use on how to show off without really showing off. And I call it the data-based show off. And the way the database show off works is that you don't just come right out and claim that you've done this awesome little thing that made you this awesome amount of money and everyone who's not with you is a sorry ass loser. Instead, you use real data, real results to back your claim. And you're not saying, I got these results. Instead, you are going to be sharing how your skills or your expertise help someone else get those results. Now, please keep in mind that this database show off should be an introduction to something. It should not be the sole post. So it should not just be, so this is what I did. Bye-bye. See you later. No, if you're going to be sharing it in an interview, if you're going to be sharing it in a Facebook group, or if you're going to be sharing it on a webinar, make sure that you follow it up with at least one or two or three tips that people can use to get similar results, not all of those results, but maybe some of those results, right? So as an example, the formula that I would use for a database show off is I did this, which caused this, which enabled this, right? Example, because obviously this is like, what is she talking about? And I don't want you to say that about me. I want you to love me. I need love and validation. This is the formula. So as an example, I created a digital filing system that resulted in a saving of 300 man hours per week, enabling the company to save $6 million annually. This is a data-based show-off. Now, another example, I helped my client, Julianne, to shift her positioning from this to this, which allowed her to enter a new market and get this many new clients, which resulted in revenues of this much. And then once you've shared that database show-off, instead of just waiting for a pat on the back and then just moving your back in front of the computer and expecting people to go, oh my God, you're awesome. Share a few tips on how they can actually also consider moving into a new market, or how they can also create a brand positioning shift, how they can also use a new positioning or something that helps them get similar some of the results that you are promising. But it is such a great way to show off, because you're not saying I am great. Instead, you're saying I made someone great. And that is kind of the hallmark of great teachers or really great leaders. You don't just say I am great, you said I make people great. And that's why a database show off is so powerful. You can do that when you are starting a webinar. Most webinars are so predictable. I was this and I did this and I was like this and now look where I am, which is just a hero's journey. And hero's journey is inspirational, but what is far more inspirational is if you tell them how you help someone else get the kind of results. So try database show off in a webinar, in an interview, in a Facebook Live, in an email, in a Facebook group post, in any situation that requires you to show off without being labeled a douche potato. Got it? Got it. Number 2 is the woe is me show off. The woe is me show off is kind of, it has been called in the blogging world the term under bragging. So it is not humble bragging, it is under bragging. And the idea is that before you show off anything that you want to show off, before you show off your expertise or your results or how much money you made, you would first include an interesting but embarrassing story. So it doesn't have to be a super long story. It could be a stupid error that you made, something embarrassing, something that kind of, it's a light humor, but it's like, this is what happened. So as an example, I do that all the time. I would say, I'm sitting here in my closet. I'm surrounded by cables. If I step up to get a sip of water, I might fall. I might trip on something and fall and break my ankle. And then I would just go into a webinar. So that's kind of one way of softening the blow of your show off, right? Let's just say you are sharing, another example, let's just say you are sharing the results of your Facebook ad campaign with a screenshot and all, which every time someone does that, I'm like, dude, I know how screenshots work. And I also know how easy it is to manipulate them. So I don't really believe you. I judge you. So please kind of go easy on that. If you're going to be sharing those, then make sure you do something else besides just sharing a screenshot and telling me, hey, look, I spent $5,000 and made $2 trillion. Yeah, please don't do that. So what was I talking about? Yes. So let's just say you still insist on sharing one of those screenshots. If you start that post, or if you start that email, or if you start whatever you're sharing with something which makes you look less perfect, which makes you look like less of a douche potato, something as simple as, oh, by the way, this campaign that I'm about to share with you, I ran it for 48 hours straight without really knowing that I had not saved the changes, or something, right? Something that kind of makes you look more relatable. So not only does it soften the blow of the show off that you're doing, but also from a psychological perspective, we know that people who are less than perfect, people who appear less than perfect, we like them more, we relate to them more, we find like we can trust them more somehow because they are more relatable, they're less than perfect. It is called Pratfall effect. Look it up if you don't trust me. No, I know you trust me, that's why you're here. But really, the idea is that you can still brag, but you would cushion your brag by sharing something that could potentially be considered, embarrassing. But make sure it is not too embarrassing. I don't want people laughing at you instead of focusing on how awesome you are. Right? Okay, number 3, which I have used, and I recommend anyone who is kind of dipping their toes in showing off to do, but one watch out. Do not do it if you're just starting out, because if you're just starting out and your business is like 8 hours old and you start using it, people will be like, but how's that even possible? Like, why? And obviously, they judge you. But before I got into step 3 or technique number 3, I want to know whether you're enjoying this. And if you're enjoying this, please go ahead and share this with someone, especially those who like to brag and you know that it's not doing them any favors. Everyone around them questions their integrity. People ignore their brags. They're constantly showing off into the dark. No one is listening to them. And they just come across as creeps. So if you know any of those people, go passive aggressive on them and share this broadcast with them. That would be the best. Yeah, I'm also going to share it. No, no, don't. That's not the point. But really, go ahead and share this. Go ahead and share this with someone who can actually benefit from this, and would just improve their results, right? And let me know if you're enjoying this, because I'm hoping you are, because come on, why would you not enjoy this? I'm awesome. I am awesome. Have you seen me? Hey, that's really the way most people show off. Like, don't do it. I promise, don't do it. Okay. Okay, yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. Excellent. So let's move on into number 3. Number 3 is, which I have used, and okay, so I have used it and made me really uncomfortable to use it in the beginning, but I realized that people were constantly using that term to talk about me, and I was like, you know what, I wish I could say that, but I don't want to come across as braggy, so how do I say it? So I started saying, so people were calling me Queen Bee a lot, and I'm really humbled and grateful and so bloody unbelievably grateful for all of those people who started calling me this. I never in my life thought I would hear this said about me. I have low self-esteem, if you haven't noticed. But people started calling me Queen Bee. And what I did was I started using it, but instead of saying, I am the Queen Bee, I said, I have been called the Queen Bee of online persuasion, right? And that comes across as less show-offy than saying, I am the Queen Bee, which is fine if you have the balls and the self-esteem to do that, but it does come across as really braggy. So I have been called is a great way for you to show off without really showing off. I have also, because people have told me about that on my webinars, I have also said that my webinars have been called the Netflix for entrepreneurs. People have been known to skip an episode of Game of Thrones to come watch my webinars. Again, sorry, I'm throwing, what's wrong with me? I need to have better control over my body. But really, the idea is to use this term, I have been called. If you have been featured in an interview, if someone has interviewed you and they introduced you using a certain term, you can use that term. If someone wrote a feature for you in a magazine and they used a certain term, you can use that term. So as an example, when I was still in corporate blogging and corporate consulting, I wrote a piece for Forbes, and I think when they introduced the piece, the editor said something like, top regional expert in corporate social responsibility. And I was like, yes, I can latch onto it. And then I started using, I have been called the top regional expert in corporate social responsibility. In my presentation, when we went to pitch to clients, that's what I said. I have been called a top regional expert by Forbes, whatever, right? So you're not lying, you have been called this, but like I said in the beginning, you want to make sure you only do that after you've established some credibility, because otherwise you just say, I have been called the sweetie pants boss babe, and people will be like, who called you that? Like your spouse before sexy time? Because otherwise it doesn't make sense. You just came out of the blue, like you're like 8 days old. How can anyone call you that? So just please make sure you have some credibility before you start using I have been called, but it's a good way to show off without showing off. The last tip, which I am going to share, but I should remind you that I've shared this before. I don't know when I shared this, but because I've shared so much stuff, everything is just a muddle inside my brain. I don't even know things I've shared, or did I write them down, or did I type them out? Did I say them? Did I not say them? Did I dream them? Did I say that to my kids? Did I say that to my housekeeper? I'm not really sure the things that I've said and the things I've not said. I have that issue because everything is a muddle. I've never done anything for 30 days straight. Never, ever. So yeah, everything is a muddle. But if I've said this before, I apologize. If I have not said this before, then I am going to tell you now. This is where you are going to show off. You're going to share all the great results that you have made, all the places that you've been featured on, all the names that you have been called, all the grand results that you've gotten. But you do that by using this sentence that says, I wasn't always this. I wasn't always this. So as an example, I wasn't always this kick-ass bosspreneur ninja who has been featured in Forbes and working with thousands of clients and living in a mansion, dipping my toes in warm ocean water while I work on my laptop, whatever, whatever your brag is. That's not my brag, I promise. I'm sitting in a place surrounded by cables still. So whatever your humble brag is, when you use this, I wasn't always this, people expect a story that will kind of negate all of those things. It kind of cushions all of those great things that you're talking about. And also it makes you more relatable, because they're like, okay, so she is willing to talk about her dark, ugly past. Again, if you are, no matter what your story is, even if your story is not a rags to riches story, you can still talk about it. So as an example, if I were to talk about this story, I can talk about my story and use this line. I would not say I wasn't always this. Instead, I used to live on the streets, because I wasn't. I have been lucky and blessed enough to never have to deal with poverty. So I don't talk about poverty lightly. I don't talk about being poor lightly, because I've never been in that situation. And I'm incredibly blessed that I haven't ever been in this situation. Instead, I talk about mental issues that I was dealing with. So as an example, I would say I wasn't always this online entrepreneur who has thousands of people following her, working from whenever and wherever she wants, taking vacations back home, taking 4 vacations a year because she can. Instead, I was a corporate consultant living in Saudi Arabia, being tied to her desk, being a slave to her corporate clients, etc. Right? So when you say I use this, I wasn't always this, it softens the blow and also allows you to share your transformation from before to after. It's a great little tool. Use it. So there you have it, 4 different techniques that you can use to show off without really showing off. And yes, you need to show off. You need to establish credibility. You need to get people to see how awesome you are, because dude, you need to talk about yourself. Yes, the best way is for people, best way to establish credibility is for someone else to talk about you, but you also need to have balls big enough to talk about you, because come on, you cannot expect people to trust you if you're not comfortable talking about your achievements. So yes, go on and use these principles. If you want to take your persuasion or your showing off or your achievements to the next level, then you should go check out my book. It's called Mass Persuasion Method. It's an international best-selling book when it comes to sales and selling and consumer behavior. And that book is forever going to change the way you do persuasion. It's forever going to change the way you talk to people and the way you introduce yourself, the way you start conversations, the way you write copy, the way you do really anything. So go check it out. And when you do, you also get your grabby little paws on $800 worth of bonuses that are pretty dang awesome. Go check out the book. It is available at bit.ly/mpmbook. And I will see you tomorrow with another session of 30 Days of Persuasion. Until then, please be cool. Don't be a douche potato. And please share this broadcast with some of your friends. If all of your friends know about me, go make new friends, because the world needs to know about me. That was not a humble brag. And yes, I was a douche potato. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Sue me. Hello, YouTube. Did you enjoy this? Because I enjoyed making this. So if you know anyone who is a douche potato and who likes to show off all the dang time and they need some help softening their showing off skills, then please share this video with someone. But in any case, even if you don't want to share that, even if you don't want to be passive aggressive about it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and go buy my book, because that will make me happy. And you don't want to make me not happy. Trust me.